Hey y'all, I'm streaming. Hold on a second. There we go. Yep. Okay, I'm just gonna wait a couple minutes to let people come in. I know I didn't advertise this stream too well, but I wanted to keep it low key. If you want to tweet it out or get the message around, that's cool. I'll just be going over some stuff, AGDQ, SGDQ recap, since I never really recapped AGDQ for me. Some marathons this year, C4L, ESA, the recent Twitch and Hitbox thing, was the big issue, you could say. Reviewing some games for the marathon, and then a quick Q&A session. Anyway, just waiting a second. Just to see if people respond. I am seeing some people in chat. I'm not actually seeing my stream online for whatever reason. Y'all can hear my Thunder keyboard. Okay, cool. It's online. Works fine. Awesome. Okay. So, AGDQ. I know it's been a while since AGDQ, but I do want to do some recap for AGDQ. It's kind of interesting doing a recap now that SGDQ happened, because we fixed some of the problems with AGDQ at SGDQ. But I still want to go over AGDQ for me, since I never really talked about it. So basically, AGDQ, obviously this was the first AGDQ that I was contracted for those of you who don't know. Now when we do marathons, we're contracted by the charity to run these events, and we have, people on staff who are contracted for it. There'll be more contractors for 2015, but I'll be going over that after my recap about AGDQ and SGDQ. Sorry, hold on a second. And so when the marathon was coming up, I don't know, it was the first one I felt really, really nervous for beforehand, just because I felt like there was a lot riding on the line, and I said in my proposal that we would raise $750,000, and I was starting to doubt myself. And in the past, it wasn't such a big deal to me, because I wasn't contracted to do this, and so I wasn't. And so, I wasn't being paid for this or anything. That wasn't as big of a deal, because it was more. I mean, it's still a community event, but it was more of a, of like a, in the community event, rather than like an event that's not only for the community, but people can also watch on site. And so, I remember having a really hard time sleeping the week beforehand. Like I slept 4 hours at most each night. And even though I was constantly working on, making sure everything was up, I was still a bit nerved up about how the marathon was going to do. And hello everyone, good to see you here. And so coming into the marathon, the setup day. I remember I picked up Murph the day before, and we were just packing up stuff, and I was doing some basic last minute layout and stream stuff. And then it came to transporting my stuff to the event. And this was the first time I hired movers, and I have to say it was definitely a good idea because honestly, there's so much equipment now that not hiring movers is incredibly inefficient, and it just saves a lot of time and stress having movers do the work for you. Don't worry, Skagaba. I will just secretly talk behind your back because that's what I always do, obviously. Anyway, just one question about the stream layout. I know it's nothing flashy, but can people see the text legibly on the chat part of the stream? I think you can, but I do want it to be visible for people who are watching the stream highlight afterward. So anyway, I was quite nerved up, and this is also the first marathon where A, I had the stream machine, and B, we had 2 days for setup. And I'll say this 2 days for setup is much nicer because it makes the setup much more relaxed and a lot less rushed. 1080p chat, I know. It's all about the breakdown moving van crew. Yeah, true. So Dragon Dark brings up a good point. So to be an old man, back in the like the older days of marathons, we didn't have as much equipment. We borrowed lots of people's equipment and stuff like that, and and because of this, we didn't even use the U-Haul. We would use Breakdown's van. We use my car. And we make multiple trips from the 4-H center, which really sucked. Because even though it's only about a 35-40 minute drive from my house, it is still really crappy to go back and forth there. There's a reason why I stay on site and not stay off site, at a local place. Because even just like a 5 to 10 minute drive can be really bad when you get marathon tired. Because marathon tired is a special sort of tired. Oh damn, Romeo with the high level strats. So anyway, I arrive at AGDQ and we're all setting up, and it's not going too badly. I mean, this is the first one where we have a registration desk and stuff, so I'm still learning the ropes. And shout outs to Hannah for making the registration desk. And I can't remember too much about the setup anymore, but I remember it being much more relaxed than any other marathon setup, because by the time we actually were starting the marathon, we were actually pretty much ready to broadcast. I don't remember there being too many hiccups. I mean, we got the TVs in the places. It turns out some of the TVs didn't work out too well, but fortunately, Twig brought about 5 CRTs, so that made up for the TVs that didn't work. And once we got RF modulators in, we had enough TVs for the most part. I'll go over that later. And then when the marathon started, it was just kind of a big relief because it was doing well. And then when I saw how well Jack was doing, donations wise, I kind of calmed down a bit because I knew that it was probably at least going to get near the goal, if not. I know, good guy, Twig. What is that? So I was just kind of relieved when the marathon was starting. And it was also strange not being the first host. For those of you who don't remember, Butters was the first host. He did the hosting for Jack and Daxter. And I think he did a good job, but I also like hosting first just to kind of set the tone. Frogbert, we had about 30 to 35 TVs. We're gonna need more for the next AGDQ, but it worked out for this AGDQ. Yeah, good banner on the bottom. I know, I pick them well. And hey, Spike, what's up? We should talk about your game submission stream that you're inevitably going to do either tomorrow or the next day. But yeah, it is. But I'm doing pretty well. So yeah, when the marathon started, it seemed like Everything was going well. I was talking to Janet Prevent Cancer, and she really liked Bonesaw doing the first game. And one of the reasons why we chose Bonesaw to do Jack and Daxter is because we knew he'd have good energy, and we knew he'd do good commentary, and thankfully he delivered on both of those parts. So that was pretty cool, and I'm glad. And I would say that was definitely one of the better starts to a marathon that we had, because it was good energy, good commentary, and Bonesaw's just an energetic guy. Now, the first issue that we ran into, and this is well known now, was the PC games, and it wasn't until halfway through the marathon that I realized that it would be better if we just bought our own PCs, because it's all kind of a transition process with how the marathons are growing, especially since they've grown so fast. And there's just things that you don't realize until after the fact. And PCs were one of those things that we didn't realize after the fact, because this was AGDQ 2014 was actually the first marathon where we had over 12 hours of PC games. I'm pretty confident about that. I think 2013 had no more than like 10 to 14 hours. And it showed. The other thing was that... Okay, hold on. Let me mute my phone so it doesn't buzz on the microphone. And there we go. So the other thing is that 2014, we were still, borrowing people's PCs for the setup. And, with our expanded budget, that didn't really make sense. But it was one of those things that we didn't realize until, halfway through, when I was like, wait a minute, if we have our own PCs, we won't have to rely on other people's, and then we can set them up beforehand, and then we won't have to worry about what they have already installed in their computers, and we won't have to worry about their own personal settings or their password logins and stuff like that, because that actually was a concern during HDQ, even though I know T-Rex wrote his password on the keyboard and people were still asking him about that. I have an awesome nose twitch. Yeah, I don't know. My nose just naturally twitches. It's pretty cool. And it was just one of those things we realized afterward. The other thing was that, people bringing in their own games instead of downloading and installing them there. Because even though the internet there was pretty good, you have enough people downloading games and it just goes to crap. Yeah, that's very true, iMisty. Were you at ESA? Because I know ESA also had some PC problems. But yeah, I know the Meat Boy problem was some really random last-minute problem. I'll talk a bit more about PC at SGDQ, but PC definitely took us by surprise. Mainly because we just haven't had that many PC games. I think it's cool that we have more PC games and marathons, especially since I've started playing more PC games ever since the marathon, because, let's be honest, PC is pretty much the best console of this generation. It has the most new interesting games. Yeah, Meat Boy was definitely unfortunate for both HDQ and SGDQ. And the other thing is that because we didn't really have guidelines for players, and just some players weren't prepared in general, that, some players didn't really prepare their stuff until the last minute. Yeah, no. Uber Goose is definitely right. SGDQ's PC stuff was actually really good because we identified the problems and we just fixed them for the most part. And I do want to go over PC stuff for SGDQ. So yeah. So when it came to our first PC block, we ran into a ton of setup issues. One is that we had this device called a FrameMeister Mini, because one of the limitations with our capture cards was that they can't capture 1080p. Because one of the problems with our setup is that we need cards that capture both 240p, which is really old. That's like NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, a lot of PS1 and N64 stuff, and then also stuff that can capture, 720, 1080p, which is current generation consoles, as in PS4 and Xbox One, and PC. So we used a scaler so that, because the AverMedia CO27 can capture 240 to 720, but it can't capture 1080. And the scaler added setup issues because sometimes the cables were messed around with, which sucks, but it happens, and then that meant that what I thought would work didn't work. And the other issue was that because the scaler is in Japanese, and while there are English guides for it, not a lot of people knew how to use it. So that was another thing with the PC and HD stuff, because it made capturing that stuff a lot more complicated, and because we only had one scaler, one person had to play at 720p. And we realized that wasn't really great for PC gamers and stuff, so to make up for that for SGDQ, we got this Japanese capture card that I actually have one of because I brought one back with me. It's a Micom Soft, and it's this. It's pretty expensive. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's around $350 including shipping if you get it from Solaris Japan. But it can capture 240p games and 1080p games at 60 frames per second, and that's actually really rare for a capture card because most capture cards don't even support 240p anymore because it's so old. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, there were just a lot of setup issues here and there that we didn't really realize until, the event was actually running. Another problem with the PC setup is that it was too complex, because what we did is that we used we had it so that the PCs would be in the same area as the consoles, but then they could also be practiced off stream, and so we had these like extension cables and splitters, which actually made it unnecessarily confusing. And we simplified that for SGDQ so that all that people would have to do is flip the monitor around so they could still practice off stream, and the PCs would still stay in the same spot, and we wouldn't have to use USB extenders or anything, because I know the USB extenders cause some problems too. I know, 240p the dream. As in 240p, what makes capturing the marathons really annoying, but yet it's so necessary. Unwary, that capture card I just showed you is actually based on a lot of the same hardware as the PEX HD Cat. Yeah, it was weird. Like, the USB extension cables worked fine for some stuff and then would crap out for others. So that's why we just didn't use them for SGDQ. And we just used a USB hub, which actually ended up not being really necessary because the motherboards on the SGDQ PCs had enough USB ports. So, and for AGDQ, we're going to use the same builds as SGDQ. There's really no reason to change them. They're plenty beefy machines. They weren't super expensive for what they were, and they were nice and small. Because they're mini ITX Mobos. Yeah, I mean, one of the first things that we did after AGDQ was that we looked at like what all the problems were. Actually, even during AGDQ a lot, and we were just like, okay, what went wrong with PC? Because it was the first time we had so many PC games, and it definitely showed. And yeah, it sucked, but we learned from our problems for SGDQ. So anyway, going on AGDQ, everything, and because of the PC setup, I can actually say this, it was pretty much the PC setup that made us go so far behind schedule. There were definitely some other setup issues, but it was primarily the PC setup, and because PC setup took so long at AGDQ, it set us farther back. Because basically any console block would adjust us a little bit further on schedule, and then any PC block would set us way further back for AGDQ. I'd have to look at the exact schedules. I have both the original schedule and the final schedule, which is way different from the original schedule because of all the delays. Because I don't know if people remember this, but there was a really terrible snowstorm during that time, and a ton of flights were getting canceled and delayed, so it was constant schedule changes. Yeah, PJ. Part of that is that Zoo Race and Prayer Warriors are just kind of badly coded games. Because I know that Prayer Warriors in particular has a windowed mode that does nothing. Like, it doesn't actually do windowed. I don't get it. It just doesn't work. Like, there were definitely problems with the PC setup. That's one case where the game is just crap. um. So yeah, so going on, I remember, and I remember during setup and even the first day, we all know Controller Head. He was acting a bit weird. I remember there was one point where he just came out of the pool and he was wearing a towel. And then he walked up to me really slowly in the practice room and he said, "What should I do?" And I was like, you should just take it easy and go to your hotel room. And he was acting really weird. And there was also another time during setup when he was hugging me, and like he was hugging lots of people and just being super super happy and quite drunk. And during setup it was like, okay, whatever, this is fine, we can forgive this. Windows 98 Master Race. Yeah, a bit weird is an understatement. But anyway, so when I wake up Monday, the second day, the first thing I wake up to, or I should say wake up after like an hour, 2 hour nap, because I'm having incredible trouble sleeping, because I'm just so wired up from adrenaline, is that the first thing I'm told is that he was reportedly sexually harassing people. I'm like, oh shit, this is really serious. I know, marathon gossip. Except this isn't really gossip, this is just going over what happened. And so I'm like, okay, but you know, we didn't know if it was true, because this is based in some rumors and just what's been happening. And then the more we researched it, it turns out the more it was true. He was bothering people at the marathon. We found out that he smashed Cypher's NES. It's not broken to the point that it's unplayable, but basically I think he busted the front cover because he was practicing for Kirby's Adventure, and he got really mad at the game, and then he just punched Cypher's NES and busted the front cover. And we found out he was actually being creepy and sexually harassing people. He was just harassing people in general. And also, we reviewed his run because someone was telling us that he used a slur during his run. And I was out, so fortunately Murphigator and I think Rom Scout was reviewed the footage, and it turns out that he did use the word retard, which is a slur for mentally disabled people. I know it's a word that sometimes people throw around, but it is a slur. And he did and when it came to the boss Krakow, he went crack-ho, which is not exactly marathon friendly language. So we talked to him, or Murph talked to him, and he's like, look, you can still attend this event, but you can't be on stream because that was unacceptable behavior. Yeah, his entire speech was also slurred. His behavior was definitely weird. And the run's still up if you want to watch it. I mean, it's on YouTube. It's not like we're making a secret. And by the way, Studio, anime is real as long as it's an anime minute. Shouts to Witwix. Yeah, his run was not good to watch. I only watched the very end, but apparently it was really sloppy. So we keep on hearing all this stuff about him, and we get confirmations on the sexual harassment. We're like, okay, this is completely unacceptable. We're gonna we'll let him stay at the hotel, but we're gonna have to kick him out of the event. So we talk to him. We're like, we're gonna have to take your badge, and we take his badge, and then it's clear he has trouble processing it because he was definitely on some drugs. I don't know what, but he was on some drugs. And he just kind of blinked and he just left and went to his room. He couldn't really process that he was not really part of the event, even though he was allowed to stay at the hotel. Yeah, I think... Yeah, I mean, the thing about Controller Head is I heard he was having girl problems beforehand, and that he was drinking on his stream a lot right before the marathon, although he was pretty normal before his problems happened. Yeah. Oh no. Zost, about the person he harassed, he actually harassed more than one person. I heard about it afterward. Um, I mean, most people know about the one person he harassed, but but there were a couple of people who came up to me afterward. I'm not going to name names, obviously, who said, and one who even said that controller had assaulted her. Nothing bad happened out of it, fortunately, but like they felt, yeah, but they were glad that we kicked him out. And so when it came to like kind of quote unquote banning from the event, we talked to the hotel about it, and they said, we're allowed to kick him out and stuff like that, but the liability comes onto us. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then after an hour or so, I remember Murph and I and Butters and Cent and I are trying to practice our 4-player game, and I'm really not focused on it because of all this controller head business. Like, it was really hard for me to concentrate because my mind was elsewhere. And it turns out that controller head, and I didn't hear this, but like, other people were around, that he was screaming in the hallways. Like, his behavior was super loud and obnoxious, and that Breakdown had to prevent him from coming in the stream room. Like, Matt was just standing there, like, trying to, like, just going, like, no, you can't get inside here. And then Breakdown was just like, look, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, and I will say what Lineal74 says. I've heard about some of Snow Tiger's questionable behavior, but that doesn't excuse Controller Head's behavior at all. No, Bubbles. No one was hurt, fortunately. And so, also, I have some crazy texts from Controller Head, but I won't reveal them on stream. I might reveal them at some point. All that I will say is that he was rewriting American history. AGDQ bouncers. I don't know. We might need security at AGDQ, at least during night shifts, just so nothing gets stolen, but I think we have enough staff so that we can deal about it. Oh, sure, oh God. And he's eventually just screaming in the hallways, and it becomes to the point where the hotel staff has to do something about it because he's actually, making things difficult for other guests. Like, and he starts screaming. So basically, we gave him an ultimatum whether he can either leave the hotel himself, or we get the cops, or we have the cops come in and make him leave. And basically, we had to call the cops and make him leave. Not too much happened after the cops. I mean, he was obviously intoxicated. They just escorted him out. I'm not even too sure what happened, but I think he went home soon after. I know he was kind of sorry for what he did, but I don't know if that really means that'll prevent behavior. And honestly, he's banned from marathons unless if he shows like that he's actually making effort, like some sort of therapy or something like that. Yeah, Big John could do it. Yeah, see, oh yeah, yeah, some of the SRG guys were telling me about like how Controller Head was in their room and he was talking about the Illuminati and really crazy stuff. Like, he was saying some really crazy stuff because he was way out of it on drugs and just obviously miserable. I mean, that was the strangest thing about Controller Head, is that a lot of people come to the marathons. Some of them come to show off their game and try to get some e-fame, which isn't a very good idea, but I can talk about that later. But a lot of people just come here to enjoy it or hang out with their friends and stuff. And like, Controller Head was obviously not happy. And I remember talking about to Bonesaw like right after we kicked out Controller Head and the whole thing was over. And it basically took up my entire day because he was being such a menace. That like, he was just really shocked because he was a pretty nice, like, friendly guy in stream. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I mean, it really sucked that the controller head thing happened, but on the other hand, it was. I think we handled it well. The only thing that we should have done is, probably made a little statement afterward, public statement, but, and it shows that we're serious about harassment, because I know harassment is a big deal at nerd conventions and stuff like that, and it just shows that we're not really gonna take your shit. Yeah, Saboom's too nice to be a bouncer. I haven't really talked to him much, but he has the most calm, relaxing voice. But yeah, after the whole controller head incident, I remember Twitch bought a bunch of pizzas for us. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna eat some damn pizza. Well, cons. But yeah, basically, I mean, here's the fact about Controller Head. He did harass people. He was a jerk to people. He made everyone feel uncomfortable. Like, I'm pretty sure if you talk to any attendee there, they would have agreed with Controller Head getting kicked out. And he did break Cypher's NES. Like, there are witnesses to that. I ate all your pizza. Yeah, I probably did. That was the one time I actually ate a lot of the food that was there, because I'm like, fuck it. I need to de-stress. Because I was really stressed out at that point. And then finally, Tuesday, because we were constantly trying to practice our four-player co-op Mystara run, and it just was not working out, especially with the Controller Head business, because, like, I was definitely preoccupied. Murph was probably preoccupied because he was having to deal with that stuff too. Oh, so the fire alarm. I should talk about that. We still have no idea who did it. We think it was someone who was smoking in a stairwell and smoking outside the window, which is a really dumbass idea. And fortunately, that was when we found out that the fire alarms, they don't actually sprinkle all over the hotel. They only sprinkle in the place where the smoke is detected. So that's a fortunate thing. But anyway, so the fire alarm. Yeah, during Trihex's run, we have a fire alarm. And everyone's just kind of like, oh. Like, at first it's like, wait, what? What's happening? And everyone's like, oh, wait, we have to go outside. And, obviously that's where the Cute Links meme happened. And I will say this. He doesn't deserve to be congratulated for that, because if that was a real fire, he could have very easily died to try to save a fucking stuffed animal. Like, it's stupid. Like, that's my statement on the whole thing. Like, he should not have been congratulated for that, because that was really stupid of him just to save his stuffed animal, because that was a real fire. Fire is fast, and it's very deadly, and he could have died from that. But anyway, so yeah, the fire alarm's happening, and, like, half the people are, like, not in any coat or anything, because they just woke up from bed, or, like, their coat's too far, like in my case. And I'm actually talking to Jay, who's in charge of banquets, and was the sales representative at the Crown, who I talked to the most. And he asked the fire department, what caused this alarm. And they told him, you don't have the authority to know that. And we're just like, what? And so we have no clue how the fire alarm happened to this day, because we don't have the authority to know that. Yeah, Zost. It'd be really painful and just an awful way to go out, especially to save a stuffed animal. Yeah, I mean, fortunately, our fire alarm was nothing harmful. We think it was someone smoking in the stairwell. There were apparently a bunch of people smoked in the stairwell, which is really dumb, because that not only is a way to cause the fire alarm to trigger, but that's also a fire hazard. But I don't really have too many confirmations on that. But yeah, the Trihex's head on fire is pretty good. Yeah, Uber Goose. But, wait, where was I? Oh, yeah. So we finally had time to practice Tuesday, and thankful. And while our first practice is pretty awful, like we finally refined it to the point where like it goes pretty well. Because that was actually the first time that we're all able to practice on site for our run. We were able to practice online in Steam, but the Steam version, if you have more than 2 players, the net play just becomes awful and unplayable. It just goes like 5 frames per second, and it's just complete slowdown everywhere. And Butters, Scent, and I had practiced together, but we hadn't practiced with Murph because Murph is in Iowa and he's too far away from us. So our practice is going pretty well, and I remember, still only getting like hour to 2 hour of sleep whenever I went to sleep. It really sucked. And I remember I woke up really early for my run, like at 4 a.m. So I got to see Barkley, and you all should see the Barkley run if you haven't, because it's a great run. Very good energy, very good commentary, and actually the game did pretty well for donations. Like I've looked at the donation statistics. I could even give you the link for it. It'd take me a little while to find it, but I can give you the link for it. And yeah, the game did pretty well for donations, especially in its time slot and the day that it was, because Wednesday is generally the slowest day for donations. You can buy an alligator tire at the list for those. And I remember when I was going to do Mystara, I was not thinking, oh, I hope I do well, or I'm kind of nervous, or I hope this performance goes well. Yeah, Laz does really good commentary. It was more just, I want to get this over with. Like, I felt like just doing one game at AGDQ was too much. Especially with all of the work that I had to do and just making sure everything, didn't explode and went okay. And I was glad that the run went well, but at the same time, even if it went badly, I wouldn't have been too beat up about it. And I feel bad about that, because we all put in a lot of work into it, and I feel like, that's kind of insulting to my team members when I didn't care how the run did and stuff like that. And for the next HDQ, I'm just not going to have any games. I'll definitely submit games for SGDQ, and that's kind of a relief, to be honest, because now I can just kind of play whatever I want on stream and just be like, whatever. So that's why I'm playing Subterranean, because it's funny, and the bloopers are good. And yeah, and then after my Mystara run, I remember staying up for Bloodlines because I really wanted to watch that, and that's a really good run. And actually, there's something funny about Mystara. The run went really well. We only had 1 death, which was the best we'd ever done, and it was a good time, and we had perfect Sin luck, because Sin is very RNG based and can either take 10 seconds or like minutes, and we got the 10 seconds. I know, I'm not abusing my position to get games. The low lights, exactly. Shit, where was I? Oh. And if you told me that was one of like below the 50th percentile in runs of marathon, even with how well we did, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right, because there were just so many good runs at HDQ. If that was any other marathon, I'd be like, fuck you, we did so well. But like, there were so many good runs at HDQ that like it didn't really stand out from the rest. And maybe Bloodlines was a bit like that, but that was definitely a really good run. It was deathless. He got a good time, and Clage definitely did well. Clage will never admit that he does well at anything, but he definitely did well at Bloodlines. So that's a run you all should watch. I will talk about that, Uber Goose, because that is something I want to go over. Yeah. And I remember after Bloodlines, I'm like, I'm going to bed. I don't even care if anything explodes. And it was the first time I got more than like 2 hours of sleep. Like, I could finally relax. And I think that was partially because I bet a big part of it was definitely I was done with my game. and I could relax more. And a big part of it was that everything was kind of settled. Like, nothing was exploding. The controller head situation was dealt with. And I remember a huge concern for people before the event, because we grew from about 150 people to over 500 within 1 year, and that's huge growth, because normally it's been about 50% growth from year to year, and this was 200, 300%. Yeah, I definitely feel like AGDQ 2014 definitely had a lot of hype. Yeah, 2014 will be hard to beat. Rambling Josh. Yeah, that won't that won't cause any echo problems at all. So then after that, even though still wasn't getting enough sleep, I could now sleep for more than 2 hours at a time, just because I wasn't so wired from adrenaline. Everything was more settled. And that's the irony of putting all the planning into the marathon, is that you work really hard up to the event, and then you definitely put a lot of work in while the event starts, and then once about Wednesday comes along, and I know this happened for Rom Scout too at SGDQ, there's a lot less work for you to do, so you can just kind of relax. I'm gonna have a Q&A session, Spike and Goose, but I will answer that. Just be sure to remember that question. And so after that, my memory is a bit of a blur there, but I was just glad that everything was going well. Obviously we were really off schedule, but aside from being really off schedule, most of the runs were really good. Everything was going well. And I remember for the Punch-Out block in particular, because we did have a bit of a problem with hosts for AGDQ, because we didn't audition them or anything. So some of the new ones were really good, and some of the new ones are kind of, Okay, Spike. And I remember for the Punch-Out block, because it was going to be blindfolded, I really, really, really didn't want the host to screw it up. And I hadn't done a single hosting, slot since then, so I'm like, I'm going to host. I know Sinister won, I know Punch-Out pretty well, I know at the very least, even if I'm not a great host, I will not screw this up because I won't talk during the run. And I was super happy to host during that run, because damn, those are some awesome, awesome runs. I mean, I'm sure you all have seen the Punch-Out runs at HDQ this time, but just watch them again, because they're that awesome. I mean, the blindfold was too hype. I was not expecting Sinister to get that far in blindfold Punch-Out, to be perfectly honest. What's actually really funny, because the thing is, Soda Popinski has no audio cues, so he's a very hard boxer to beat blindfolded. Although what's funny is that Sinister One actually found out a reliable strat to beat Soda Popinski that involves getting knocked down yourself. The Q&A will actually be on this stream after I'm done with all the recap stuff. So you're going to have to listen to me talk more! Yeah, I don't think Sinister was expecting it either. And Zallard, and I remember feeling sorry for Zallard when it came to Super Punch-Out, and he really knocked it out of the park. Looked like he did better than Sinister. If there was a rookie of the Marathon Award, it would probably go to Zallard, because I know his Star Fox 64 run was good, and then his Super Punch-Out run was obviously killer. So yeah, exactly, accidental frame perfect. And I think I played off the runs pretty well. The only thing that annoyed me about the Punch-Out runs was that there was a guy during Punch-Out, and I'm not going to name names, although you will see who it is if you watch the video for Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Was that there was a guy on his cell phone, I think it was during Super Macho Man, which is a pretty serious part, because that's how you get up to Tyson. He's not an easy boxer either, especially blindfolded. And I remember, because I was in the hosting spot, there wasn't a lot I could do. I was pointing at him, but probably anyone who saw me just thought, what's Mike doing? He's just looking really weird. but like I wanted someone to do something about it, but that's really hard to do. And he was right in front, like either on the couch or near the couch, and it really pissed me off because if you're gonna be there, you should be paying attention to the run, and that's really not cool. Like, that really pissed me off. But aside from that, the run was really great. Yeah, and then, so one thing that's great about being staff at a marathon is that, you know, the room filled up for Super Metroid. And I definitely wanted to see the race. And I remember beforehand, I wasn't too sure if we could do the race just because getting 4 streams up is kind of a bitch. But then I realized that because I had 5 capture cards, we could get 4 streams up. So it worked out. And the preparation that Sinister One Gold did for the commentary was great. They totally nailed it because it was perfect because, you know, all of those guys were really focused on the race. And because I was staff, I got to go in the staff area and just watch from the stream preview, which was pretty awesome because then that meant that I had a really clear view and it wasn't super crowded. my corrupt ways. Easy peasy 5-man race next time. That layout would be kind of sloppy. I've seen the ESA, I think it was like 10-person swap, but they had 5 screens. I don't know. I feel like once you get past 4, it's kind of hard to pay attention to all of them. But yeah. And then, yeah, there's not too much except everything went pretty well after that. I remember we even gained some time during the final day because we didn't have that many PC games and the Minecraft setup was pretty fast. And I know that, what's his name? Bismuth got a world record in Minecraft, so that's pretty cool. Agreed, Rambling Josh. Oh man, yeah, I do want to talk about Coddy because that echoing was a thing. So, wait, where was I? Oh yeah, and so the final day, and you know we're like 5 hours late going in Chrono Trigger, but there's still good energy for Chrono Trigger. It's not as crowded as the other ones because I'm aware that not everyone likes watching RPGs. Like, I'm very aware of this. It's been a thing since the beginning of marathons. Now setting up a PC game at GDQ. I'll go over that after I'm done with my little AGDQ recap. And then, you know, I think we're like around 850,000 when Chrono Trigger started. And I know a lot of people say that, oh, Chrono Trigger only got a lot of donations because of the big push at the end. But the big push at the end was when it got to 900,000. And that was about an hour and a half. Chrono Trigger started around 840 or 850,000. So it still raised about 50,000 within its first 4.5 hours. Which is still a very good rate of donations. I would actually like to see Chrono Trigger split up by like the first 4 hours and like the final hour, because that would be interesting. And it still did very well for donations, as much as people want to dismiss it. Well, I know it wasn't echoing Coddy, but it was 5 audio sources at once, and it still sounded like echoing. And yeah, the thing about JRPG is that they do have a fan base. And I remember they even made up a donation incentive during Chrono Trigger, like Waifu War, of like who Chrono got to be with after he was revived, Marl or Luca. And like that raised $14,000, which is absolutely insane for a last minute donation incentive. And there was just good commentary. I know Spike Vegeta and Puexel was on the couch. You know, they were keeping the commentary really good. There was just good energy, and just being there for the million was pretty unreal. It was just magical. Like, and I know that sounds cheesy as hell, but it was. It's like, no, I don't think anyone was expecting a million. Like, we were definitely expecting around 750, 800,000, like, once the marathon was getting into it. But we didn't think we'd hit the million, but we did, and that's absolutely insane. Holy Boomer was so good. Yeah. And I think about Chrono Trigger compared to other JRPGs, I think it's more well-liked than Final Fantasy, even though it's a Square Enix RPG, just because It's not. It doesn't have the Final Fantasy name, and it doesn't have random encounters. I think It's pretty much one of the best marathon RPGs you could have. Probably more like 5 seconds, Esriksha. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I drank a monster to make sure I could be up, because basically the marathon ended when was supposed to end when Chrono Trigger started, and so it was like 5 in the morning when the marathon ended. And I remember the marathon speech being good, because AGDQ 2013, I won't lie, dragged on a lot. But because I took over the mic, because I'm a hog, no. And, I still let people talk a bit, made sure that everyone got their say. But I also made sure that, once we were done, we were done. And I think the finale was only about 45 minutes or so, which is kind of the perfect time of length for a finale. And there was just a really good feeling after the marathon, kind of like, we fucking did it. And I felt like I fucking did it, because goddamn, I was tired. I was pretty tired, but just the $1 million thing, I think, just woke everyone up. I remember the room being packed when we were about to hit the $1 million. Valve and Rain, that's going to come tomorrow. There's going to be game submissions tomorrow, and you'll submit it through the Games Done Quick website, so the forum doesn't shit itself. So yeah, that was AGDQ. And then come bonus stream. Thankfully, Hannah was around to keep it up, although it still barely worked. But there was at least enough time for most people to fit in their stuff. But the thing is, the problem with bonus stream is that most of staff just really tired. They don't give a shit anymore. I know I didn't give a shit anymore. I will be perfectly honest. I did not pay attention to a single bit of AGDQ bonus stream. I was just super tired. I was trying to figure out how to get the stuff to the Prevent Cancer warehouse, and just getting a U-Haul and everything sorted. So I wasn't really even looking at what was on bonus stream, which is kind of bad. And the way that bonus stream kind of transformed from 2013 to 2014 was that because there were so many more people, and everyone wants to run a game, it's natural. Bonus stream turned from kind of like a casual, relaxed thing where okay, let's just play some games for fun. We're still around. We just want to cool down a bit. Do some casual stuff to I didn't get a game at the marathon. It's my chance to get in the game. And it doesn't matter that what I think that bonus stream is. If we keep a bonus stream as is absolutely unsustainable. There'll just be more people who want to speedrun a game in less time now, because I'm actually making bonus stream not as long as it was. And I agree with Spike Vegeta about Chrono Trigger. Yeah, Ben Kicks. That's how we all feel too. Yeah, bonus stream. Yeah, exactly. That's what it turned into. It's I would actually say GDQ half, because it was half the effort put in, if even that much. We even had hosts for it, which was really strange, because we never had hosts for a bonus stream before. And that's why, and I'll go over it a bit more, but that's why for next AGDQ bonus stream, there's actually going to be a schedule. There will be no speedrunning stuff. It'll be stuff like Mario Party, Fighting Masters, Smash Finals, stuff like that. And then once the 24 hours is up, we'll just strike down the rest of the day, and it'll be good. Because one thing that really sucked about the AGDQ strike down is that it was also last minute, that we didn't really have time to do anything put it in proper containers and stuff like that. So it was a bit of a mess. And the SGDQ strike down was much better. But I'll go over that with the SGDQ recap. Mm-hmm. I like Mikey's idea. So what's really funny, Studio, is that even Niglary admits that Mario Party 2 is a bit played out. I remember talking to him about that on my stream a couple days ago. And if he admits that Mario Party's played out, then it's probably a bit played out. Not Mario Party in general, but just Mario Party 2. Yeah, I think blind races of stupid games would be neat. I agree with that, Boney. But we have to find games that are entertaining blind. Like, just games that are really troll and stupid blind. Spike, I think people need to get the idea of their heads that um, even a exposure at a GDQ leads to like instant partnership and everything. There are definitely people who get a lot more followers and a lot more viewers, but most people don't really get a significant amount of followers. It's really the super exceptional runs or like the people with really standout knockout commentary who get a lot of followers. I know Teaminator, the Beautiful Joe runner, got like 3,000 followers. Obviously CGN got a ton of followers, Zallard got a ton of followers, but the thing is that to keep those followers and viewers, you have to stream constantly, and you have to stream the game that you're known for. Yeah, Toki Blind is always good. Yeah, I mean, in general, if you want your stream to grow, you're just gonna have to stream consistently, and be good to your audience. Hey Medibot, here's how I feel about bonus stream. I am pro for Yoko because I actually saw that a couple of weeks ago, and that was pretty hype. What? Speedrunning is not all about selling out? Oh my god. No. Yeah, honestly, when it comes to getting popular and getting a lot of viewers, speedrunning is actually not a great route to go. Like, there are people like Dan's Gaming and Man vs. Game who get a lot of viewers. I mean, more than most speedrunners, and they just casually play through games, so. But yeah, in general, when it comes to a marathon, don't expect like your viewer count is up, and even if it does, you have to stream so consistently and for such extended periods of time that that there's a chance you could burn out and get tired of it. So yeah, when it came to actually moving out of the hotel, it was pretty stressful just because I had like 2 or 3 hours to assemble everything for the movers, and then the move took a while because it just took a long time to get all of the CRTs and Prevent Cancer's warehouse. And I know a couple of the CRTs that I brought with me are actually either broken or have a bit trouble functioning one way or another. And yeah, Spike, I agree with you, and that's why I want bonus stream to be scheduled with just more casual content. Yeah, I know, Fiery Blizzard. The irony is that I'm the one who's streaming after SGDQ, and I almost never stream. So yeah, after AGDQ, I burned out really hard. Because basically my schedule for, like, from the end of 2012 has been like, I had a job, and then I was also working in the marathon. Then I was laid off my job, and then I had to make a decision of either get another full-time job or, and do the marathon on the side, or turn the marathon into work. And I decided on the latter. And then I had a lot to learn there, and it took a lot of time to prepare to like learn how to negotiate, get a contract, yada yada yada, and just kind of transition into that. And then there was SGDQ to prepare, and even though Romscout was my partner for that, I still had to do a lot of work for that, like get the hotel and everything, and how do the games list and stuff like that. And then there was obviously, and then right after that I had to prepare for HQ 2014. So once I thought about it during my burnout period, I was like, whoa, it was no wonder I burned out. Like, and I burned out hard. Well, let me tell you how tired I was the moment I got back from HDQ. The first 3 days, so 72. Yep, I did get good at Hawking. In 72 hours, I slept for 40 of those hours because I was that tired. And I had like an ongoing flu or like some sort of sickness for like 2 or 3 weeks afterward, and then I burned out really hard after that. After the feedback. Yeah, I heard about Fiery Blizzard. I mean, I'm sure that super duper skip category is like a separate category, but still, it's 40 seconds. Yeah. I mean, we're not technically a big con, but at the same time, you know, it is a fundraiser, so there's other concerns and like. And Rom Scout totally admits that he's a bit burned out after SGDQ, just like kind of recovering too, and that he and he and he admits that like he would not be able to do this work like as a volunteer anymore. It's, you know, there was a time that we could do it as volunteer work, but it's just so time consuming and so much work that it just can't be done as a volunteer gig anymore, at least not feasibly. His EP is percent, as he say. So yeah, I burned out so hard that I couldn't even stand to look at like any marathon related stuff for about 2 months. Like, it was that bad. Like, I probably should have communicated that I was burnt out and I just had to take a break, but like I was so burnt out I couldn't even do that. So like I was just super burnt out, and I just took a break, played some games casually, hung out with friends more, you know, got a bit more of a social life. Just like, but I just had to take a break because I had put so much of myself into doing the marathons. It was just too much. Like, I was just way out of it afterward. But, you know, I slowly got back into it, and I'm glad to be back. I mean, you know, I had to realize why I was in speedrunning in the first place, you know, that it's fun. Remember? It's fun. I forgot about that, but make UA set up the GDQs. So, how dare me? Exactly, S. Rickshaw. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if UA was in charge, he would actually stab people in the neck with a shiv. I'll talk a bit about that for my SGDQ recap, which is coming up right after this. But yeah, it took me a while to recover, and I know there was definitely some stuff I wanted to do for SGDQ that I didn't, just because like I just spent time recovering and like resting up. See, that's the thing. Running the marathon is fun, but I just put so much work into it, and there was a lot of stuff just from the growth that I realized afterward. Just like that there needs to be more roles and more people enforcing stuff, and people are like, well, you didn't delegate enough. Well, it's not that I didn't want to delegate, it's just that I just didn't know. It's one of those hindsight things. So that's why for the next AGDQ, you know, we're going to have people in PR, like Studio did press PR for SGDQ, and he's going to do that again for AGDQ. Rom Scout's going to be like handling the stream channel, and just general updates for it. And Sumi will be doing social media. You know, Hannah will be around doing enforcement, because she was pretty much around the stream area all the time during SGDQ and AGDQ and enforcing rules and stuff like that. She did a good job of that, and Murph will also be doing that, because, you know, everyone knows that Murph is the enforcer. I was also going to have Railcoon help out with that, but he might actually have a medical problem with his kidneys that will prevent him from doing so. It's pretty bad. You know, UA will have a reduced role because of what happened at SGDQ, but I'll go on about that with my SGDQ recap. You know, Matt's role is like practically everything except doing the video now, because he even admitted that he doesn't have time to do it, and then it took me about a week to realize that, hey, wait a minute, Gilders needs this cool stuff for the Sunday sequence break. He'd do a good job of doing intro videos and the like, and he did some for AGDQ, and those are pretty awesome, so why don't I just have him doing videos for AGDQ? And guys, we have an actual guy who is a professional. It was funny because we wanted like a graphic designer or someone to help out with layouts, and we weren't sure who. But there was this guy who tweeted me during SGDQ, and it's funny, he's super polite. And his name is Chris Hannell, and you can go to chrishannell.com to check him out. He does layouts for Crumps. He's done layouts for a couple of other people, and he used to be on staff for the MMO WildStar. He used to handle their streaming stuff, and he knows a lot about OBS and layouts and doing that sort of thing. So I think he'll be very helpful. And it was just so funny because we found him through a tweet, and I just emailed him like a couple weeks afterward, and we've been talking since. And I think he'll do a good job. So yeah, we'll have layouts. Yeah, Chris. Yeah, Rambling Josh. Oh, you directed him to me. Yeah, because he said like some of his friends directed him to me, and he was so modest about it. He was like, "Yeah, I know these events are more about running, making sure everything works than looking good." And that's true. But at the same time, we do want to look good. Especially since the marathons are becoming, in a sense, more professional. But yeah, that's the cool thing, Annihilator. And so I think he'll do a good job. His website's www.chrishandle.com. I'll just post it in chat. That should be his website. And Stinger, I actually like a lot of about running the marathons. I guess my least favorite part is dealing with people who are more in it for themselves than about the marathon, or raising money for charity, or doing this for a good cause. And they're like, I'm going to get Twitch viewers, or this is my game, blah 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 blah. The tech setup for AGDQ is going to be pretty similar to SGDQ. A couple of exceptions, like we're going to have more PCs for the PC stuff, because that was really the only problem with PC stuff for SGDQ. I'm actually going to talk about Hitbox and Twitch later, Joe Mushashi. Yeah, wires, and more wires, at least 500 fire hazards. Exactly, Fiery Blizzard. You are 100,000% correct. I don't know if he was fired from WildStar, but he's now an independent contractor. So yeah, so then after I spent time kind of recovering from AGDQ, kind of realizing why I was in this, and while it was nice that things are running without me, because that's good. I don't want everything to be so dependent on me that it can't run without me. At the same time, there's definitely stuff that I needed to do, like equipment purchasing, since I'm in charge of the accounts and stuff like that. I also helped with auditions for the SGDQ hosts, and that was actually really cool. I'm gonna have someone else take my place in that, but so I did that with Spike and Broman. We auditioned the host for SGDQ, and I think it worked out really well. While maybe Zost about that's actually the biggest change we're going to make to the tech setup. We're going to make the tech setup like AGDQ in the sense that the tech station is going to be behind the runners and not on camera. I don't... Miles said it best when it came to Hitbox and Twitch. Wow, that's going to be like the entire discussion. Wow, that's just like the perfect analogy.